Hello, grade nines. How are you? Hello, grade nines. Good afternoon. How are you, all of you? Cleo, how are you? I'm good. Is everyone okay? Welcome back to another lesson for social sciences. Hello, Onka, how are you? I can see people still coming in. How was your day so far? I'm good. I'm Raya. Hello. Tiring and stressful. Oh, sorry about that. You'll be fine, eh? Okay. So remember, today we are writing my test, okay? Are you ready for it? Are you ready for the test? Okay. So remember, today we are going through World War II. For those people who were not there in the first week, we did this in week 1, the topic for World War II. So for the new ones, I'm just going to revise the topic again. Okay, so that is what we're going to do today. So I might take much time because I'll be covering the whole topic today before you write, okay? Okay, so let's start. So I want you to listen very carefully as I go through the slides so that you will be able to understand World War II, okay? Remember, you did it in term 1, so we're just revising. Okay. So let's proceed. So we're going to look at the following subtopics under World War II. We're going to look at the rise of Nazi Germany, World War II Europe, and then World War II in the Pacific. So those are the 3 subtopics we are going to look at. Okay, so let's proceed. Let's start by looking at the end of World War I. So World War I ended in 1918 and Germany was defeated. So after it was defeated, the ruler who was ruling, Kaiser of Germany, was overthrown. So Germany was no longer ruled by a king and became a republic. A new democratic government was formed in the city of Weimar. The government of the Weimar Republic signed the armistice with the Allies and agreed to stop fighting. So the Weimar Republic came into power when Germany was defeated in World War I. Okay. And then what happened? So that was the end of World War I. Leaders of the countries that won the war discussed and drafted a peace treaty, which was called Treaty of Versailles. So always remember about the Treaty of Versailles. It's very important in this topic, okay? You should be able to explain, sorry about that. You should be able to explain the peace treaty of Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles was used to dictate Germany for the damages it had caused other countries during the war. Germany had to pay the damages of the war. Germany signed the war guilty clause admitting it was to blame for the war. So other countries, remember, they were blaming what? Germany for all the damages they had caused during the World War I. So in this Treaty of Versailles, it was a way of dictating or commanding Germany to pay for the damages. Okay. So that is how World War I ended, okay? And then we look at the rise of Hitler and the Nazis in 1920s. You know Adolf Hitler? He was a dictator who rose in Germany. Hitler joined the Nazi Party at the end of World War I and became the leader of the Nazi Party in 1921. He set up armed groups of supporters called the Stormtroopers. Okay, so this is the German name for those Stormtroopers. So they were called the SA. The SA organized marching parades, dressed in brown uniforms, and carried Nazi flags. So when Hitler joined the Nazi Party, he created this army, the group of people who were armed, the supporters called the SA, the Stormtroopers. Okay, so these people, they supported what? The Nazi Party. The SA used violence on people who disagreed with them. So they were very violent, the SA group. Hitler and the Nazis tried to overthrow the Weimar government and failed. So Hitler was sent to jail for 9 months. So his aim, Hitler, he did not like the Weimar government. He did not support it. So he tried to overthrow the government. And when he failed, he was arrested, sent to jail for 9 months. When he was in jail, Hitler wrote his famous book called The Mein Kampf, My Struggle. His book was called Mein Kampf. In English, My Struggle. So he wrote this book when he was in prison, okay? And then we look at the Great Depression of 1929 and its effects on Germany. What was this Great Depression all about? How did it affect Germany? The Great Depression was a period during the 1930s when there was a worldwide economic collapse and huge unemployment. So this Great Depression, it affected all the countries in the world in the 1930s. So it started from the economic collapse. Okay, USA had to lend money to the Weimar government to help the Germany economy recover after World War I. So remember, after World War I, Germany lost everything. Their economy collapsed. So United States had to lend money to the Weimar government, which was in power now. In 1929, an economic disaster began in the USA, which resulted to the Great Depression. So this economic disaster started where? In the United States. People lost all the money they invested, inflation rose, factories closed, and people lost their jobs. So it was major, huge economy collapse, this Great Depression, okay. And then we look at the failure of democracy in the Weimar Republic. Germany did not have a history of democracy. The powerful military did not support the system of democracy. There were many political parties in Germany. I hope you are listening, grade 9s. I hope you are listening. Okay. Sorry about that. Just give me 1 minute. I'll be back. 1 minute, grade 9s. I'll be back. Oh, sorry about that. Grade 9s, I'm back. Okay. So we're talking about the failure of democracy in the Weimar Republic. Okay. So remember, Germany did not have a history of democracy. The powerful military did not support the system of democracy that time in Germany. There were many political parties in Germany. The Weimar government could not cope with the economic crisis caused by the Great Depression. So it was also suffering this way, the Weimar government. People became unhappy with the Weimar government, blaming it for the poor economy. So when this Great Depression started to affect the ruling of the Weimar government, people started to complain. They were unhappy with this government. Some people tend to support Hitler's Nazi party. So they were shifting their support from Weimar government, and they were supporting the Nazi party now. So the Weimar Republic came to an end when Hitler took over power in 1933. So all of these points, they are showing you what the failure of democracy in the Weimar Republic, how it lost support from the public, from its people. And people started to support what? The Nazi party, okay. All right, we proceed. So what were the reasons for public support for the Nazi party? Why were people supporting this Nazi party? People chose to vote for the Nazis who promised law, order, and jobs. So this Nazi party was very clever. They were promising what? People, different things. Okay, so they just wanted their support. The Nazi party blamed the Weimar Republic for the severe punishments and humiliation of the Treaty of Versailles. Hitler's Nazi party received financial support from military and other wealthy businesses. So you can see the support it was getting from the wealthy businessmen. Hitler was influential and a brilliant public speaker who took attention of thousands of listeners. So Hitler was a powerful man, very influential. If he went into the public to give a speech, people would listen and support him. He was a brilliant public speaker. By 1932, the Nazi Party was very well organized, and it made people to believe that it could save them from their troubles. So the Nazi Party was powerful now and well organized, because also Hitler had joined the party. So they were telling people that we know about your problems, what you want. We can solve those problems. We can stop those troubles. So those were their false promises to people. And then what happened? There was the Enabling Act of 1933. So the Reichstag passed the Enabling Act in 1933, which gave power to Hitler and the Nazi Party. Hitler became a dictator and ruled in a ruthless and violent manner. So Hitler was a dictator, very cruel. The first concentration camp was established in 1933, and it was used for prisoners who disagreed with the Nazis. So back then, if you did not support or agree with the Nazis, you're in big trouble. Okay, so they set up concentration camps. We're going to look at them throughout the lesson. The prisoners did hard labor, military drills, and got regular beatings. It was very bad. So those prisoners who were sent to the concentration camps, it was violent, very cruel, the conditions that they were living in. Okay. I can see something. How did they know I didn't vote for them? You mean the Nazi Party? They would find out, isn't it? Spies. They had spies. You know what is a spy? So there were spies, yes, who were following people, listening to what people were saying. So if those spies, they hate you saying, I don't support this Nazi Party, you're in trouble. You'll be caught. All right. And then we look at the Nuremberg Laws. You're supposed to know about this. It's very important. What were the Nuremberg Laws? Hitler became obsessed with racial purity and used the word Aryan to describe his idea of a pure German race. So Hitler, he was saying some races are more superior than others. He was bringing racism. Nazis said Aryans were superior to everyone else, and Jews were inferior and undesirable. So the Nazis, they hated the Jews, the Jewish people. They didn't like them. So they were saying, you are undesirable. You are smaller than the pure German race, the Aryans. Okay. Anti-Semitism is the hatred of Jews, and it had existed in Europe for hundreds of years. So it did not start in Germany only. It had existed before in Europe. This hatred of Jews, it is called anti-Semitism. Propaganda was used to increase anti-Semitism, and this led to the Holocaust. Oh, it was very bad. So they were using propaganda now. What does propaganda mean? Does anyone know what does propaganda mean? Anyone? Grade 9s? The use of different medias to influence the way people think. Okay. In other words, something biased. Okay. And then we look at the persecution of political opponents. Apart from Jews, the following people were labeled as not pure iron race and were inferior. Political opponents, other religious groups, the Romans, blacks, and slaves. Disabled people were also killed. So all of these people, they were persecuted because they did not support what? The Nazi Party. So it's not only the Jews, also these people who were not supporting the Nazi Party. Okay. And then what happened? And then we look at the Nazi Germany as an example of a fascist state. What is fascism? Or what is a fascist state? Does anyone know? Does anyone know what is a fascist state? So you understand when you go further, okay? Nazi Germany was a fascist state which controlled everything and everyone in Germany. So fascist is the opposite of democracy. What happens in a democratic country? It is opposite to what happens in a fascist state. Let me see your answer. Okay, that developed in Italy. Okay. The Nazi Party made people to believe that Hitler had the solutions to their problems. So they were so convincing, the Nazis. It used violence, lies, and propaganda to control people. Their aim was to control people's thoughts and actions only, nothing else. So let's look at the features of fascism. When we say there's fascism in this country, what do we mean? There's use of propaganda, no freedom of speech or press, use of violence and brutality on people, secret police to spy on people. Remember the spies I was talking about. Worship the leader. So in other words, they were worshiping Hitler. Massive emphasis on the military, hatred of democracy. So in a fascist state, you don't support democracy. You don't like it. There are no human rights. They don't exist. Racism and persecution of people. So there is always racism and persecution of people. So all of these are features of fascism, okay? So it's a complete opposite of the democracy. So Germany was a fascist state with all these features, okay? And then we look at the Nazi foreign policy for Lebensraum. So the Nazis wanted Germany to expand into the rest of Europe. So they say Germany needed Lebensraum. So they wanted more living space, more area, more land. So Hitler developed an aggressive foreign policy to obtain more land and kill or enslave non-Germans. Hitler could not achieve his aims without strong armed forces. Therefore, they decided to rearm secretly. So Hitler was very cruel. All he wanted to do was to come in power with his evil acts and control people. Okay. Here we see the extermination camps that were there in Germany that time. What was called the Holocaust. The Nazis used extermination camps and genocide to deal with political opponents and punish other undesirable people. Okay. Yes, Tando, he was an annoying and disgusting human, Hitler. Yes, he was very cruel. Imagine killing Jews. For what? They are humans. They were humans. So all of these were concentration camps that were used in all parts of Germany. So prisoners were taken there. Okay. And then we look at the outbreak of World War II, Axis and allies. The implementation of the Lebensraum concept resulted in European powers to divide into Axis and allied powers. So we have the Axis powers, you're supposed to know them, the countries that supported Germany during World War II. These are Japan, Italy, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Finland, and Thailand. So they are called Axis powers. They supported what? Germany during World War II. And then we have the Allied powers, the countries that supported Britain and France during World War II. For example, United States, Russia, and other countries. It is said about 47 other countries, they supported what? Britain and France. So those were called Allied powers. Okay. And then we look at different examples of resistance to Nazism in Germany. So other Germans, they were not supporting what the Nazis were doing. They were against Nazism. So they formed a form of what? Resistance. Like for example, here, this lady called Sophie Scholl, she started the White Rose movement, which criticized the Nazis and wanted freedom to be given to people. So she was not supporting what they were doing to the Jews and other people, the Nazi party. Okay. So she was named Sophie Scholl. And who else? We have Dietrich Bonhoeffer and the Confessing Church. They also resisted what? Nazi policies. So that is him. He also resisted this Nazism. Okay. And also there was the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, which resulted from Jewish resistance. So you can see the Nazi soldiers, the Nazi army, going to the ghettos and attacking people, the Jews that were living there. These are the Jews. You can see. It was terrible. So they tried to resist the Nazism by protests. Okay, but they were captured. And then the end of World War II in Europe, Italy were defeated in the war. And Italian dictator Benito Mussolini was captured by Italian resistors and was killed. So now we're looking at World War II in Europe. Also, Germany was defeated and Hitler committed suicide. So Hitler committed suicide. Shame. German army surrendered to the Russian army. The concentration camps were discovered by Allied soldiers and the Jews were liberated. So they were set free. They were set free, finally. And then, what about in the Pacific? Remember, there was World War again in the Pacific Ocean. So what was happening there? Japan wanted to increase its military power all over the Far East. Its navy was bigger than that of Britain, France, and USA. In 1931, Japan invaded China, which resulted in USA to place sanctions against Japan because USA had economic interest in China. So Japan had a bigger navy, the biggest, very huge. So it wanted to expand into China, to invade China. But the problem was the United States was also interested in China. Therefore, it increased tensions between Japan and the United States. So that is when the war started between what? Japan and the United States. In 1941, the Japanese attacked the Pearl Harbor, where the American naval fleet was. You know that the ship for the Navy. So it was attacked, the one for the Americans. It was attacked by the Japanese. The USA now had to fight on two fronts, in Europe and in the Pacific Ocean, imagine. So they had a lot of work to do, fighting in Europe and also fighting in the Pacific Ocean. Okay. Now, because Japan had attacked USA in the Pearl Harbor, what do you think happened to the Japanese who were living in America? So they were forced into camps, which were called internment camps. So those Japanese who were living in America, they were caught because the United States was also angry because they had been attacked. They lived in barracks and life was very hard in these camps. You can see this image is showing those barracks in those prisons or those camps. So these camps were for the Japanese people in United States. They were called internment camps. Okay. All right. You can see the Japanese expansion and its atrocities. Japan wanted to be a strong country in the Pacific, so it expanded into other countries. Japanese soldiers committed many atrocities in China. What are atrocities? Does anyone know? What are atrocities? So when you do something violent against other people or other humans, wrong things, yes, in a violent way, yes. All right. And then there were Japanese prisoner of war camps for Allied soldiers. Japan created prison camps for the Allied soldiers they had captured. They punished the prisoners in a harsh manner. Camps were fenced with barbed wire, and those who escaped would be executed in front of other prisoners. Yo, it was terrible. Thousands of captured Allied soldiers died of hunger and other abuses on the long marches to the camps. So also in Japan, the Japanese were capturing what? The Allied soldiers and putting them in prison camps. So you can see in the United States, they are capturing the Japanese. In Japan, they're capturing the Allied soldiers. A lot of things were happening that time. And then end of World War II, how did it end? The war in Europe ended on 8 May 1945 when Nazi Germany surrendered, but the Pacific War continued. Japan refused to surrender, and this led to United States dropping 2 bombs over Japan. And you learned about these 2 bombs. The first one was dropped in Hiroshima City, and the second one was dropped in Nagasaki. So both cities were destroyed and many people died. Many people died. After the second bombing, Japan surrendered to the Allies. Finally, World War II came to an end. So at the end, Japan surrendered to the Allies. And World War II came to an end. Okay, grade 9. So that was the World War II. So we're just revising, going through. Okay, so I hope you got something. And then this is the assessment link. I'm sure you are used to it for the assessment. Remember, you're writing my test today. I was told that there is a 20% deduction for late submission. Please note, 20% deduction for late submission. So when you write your test, you submit there and then. Do you understand? Okay. Any other questions? Grade 9s? So you're writing my test today. All right. What do you do for the other subjects? It's the same procedure for all subjects that you're writing. It's the same procedure for all subjects. Yes, same procedure. It's not different because it's social sciences. Same thing. So just remember, 20% deduction if you submit your test late. Okay, so I wish you all the best. So you're writing 2 topics, okay, for history and geography, World War II and map skills, okay? Yes, by 10 o'clock, you should have submitted, okay? I wish you all the best. I'll see you tomorrow, same time. Any questions? Okay. If there are no questions tomorrow, then goodbye, bye-bye.